Hi, guys. Happy Monday after Thanksgiving break. I hope you guys had just a really nice break. And I hope you guys are ready for December because it's coming tomorrow. And that'll be it. That'll be it for 2020. Then we'll bring on the new year. It's going to happen quick. We only have 3 full weeks left before Christmas break. So here we go. Challenge questions for today. I hope you really tried your hardest on these questions. And let's check to see if you understood them or to see if you got a little confuzzled. So first thing that we're going to do is we are going to have 545 and 8/10. Make sure that we have a decimal there, and we're going to line up the decimal with 68 and 5100. 68 and 5100. We are going to subtract. Now, first mistake people usually make is they don't line up the decimals properly. If you lined up your decimal properly, this should start to make a little bit more sense for you. You have nothing and you're going to take 1 away from it. Because remember, you have the top number, you lose the bottom number. So I have nothing, I lose 1, that's illegal. So I have to borrow from the 8, turn that into a 7, and 1/10 is worth 10 hundredths. 10 minus 1 is 9. I have 7, I lose 5, that's 2. Make sure that I bring over that decimal. I have 5, I lose 8, that 2 is illegal. 15 minus 8 is 7. 3 minus 6 is illegal. I have to borrow from 100. 100 is worth 10/10. 13 minus 6 is 7. And 4 minus nothing is 4. So the answer is 477 and 29 hundredths. Moving on, we have 35 and 1/3. And we are going to add 8 and 3/4. First thing that we have to do is make sure they have the same name. 4 and 3, the first thing they both have in common is 12. So you put 12 next to them because thirds can turn into 12ths and fourths can turn into 12ths. Now we want to exchange. How many 12ths is equal to 1/3? The way you do that is how many 3's make 12? 4. So the magic numbers times 4. 1/3 is equal to 4/12. So therefore we just turn that into 4/12. And then 3/4, how many 4's make 12? 3. So your magic numbers times 3. Do it to the bottom, do it to the top. 3 times 3 is 9. So 3/4 is equal to 9/12. Now you could add them because they have the same name. So the answer is going to be 12ths. And 9 plus 4 is 13/12. Now, we have a little bit of an issue. We've got to take out a whole here because 13/12 is bigger than 1 whole. You could take out 1 whole, which is 12/12, and float it over with the other whole. And then there's 1/12 left because 12/12 and 1/12 is your 13/12. Now, 8 plus 5 plus 1 is the same thing as 8 plus 6, which is 14. And 3 plus 1 is 4. So that answer is 44 and 1/12. Now we are going to talk about simplifying. So simplifying, remember, just means finding that equal fraction, okay? Finding the equal fraction with the smallest numbers. So right now we have 12/16. My piece of advice to you is, yes, I told you, there's many ways to find this simplified. Okay, there's many different options that you have. The one option is to find the biggest factor that they both have in common to go with the knockout punch. But what I like to do is jab, 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 because right here you know that you can count by 2s to hit both of them because they're both even. So just looking at it, you know 2 goes into both of them. So therefore, if 2 was your magic number, this would be 6 and this would be 8, right? It's, in my opinion, it's easier to simplify this than it is this one, right? Is this simplified? Not yet, because once again, you could cut them in half again and get 3/4. And 3/4 is the smallest equal fraction. So 12/16 simplified is 3/4. And last, the challenge question. It takes Evan 6 3/4 hours to mow 3 lawns. It takes him 2 1/3 to 2 1/3 hours to mow Mr. Gal's lawn and 1 3/4 hours to mow Miss Lee's lawn. How many hours does it take? So here is what we know. We know that the entirety of the 3 lawns takes them 6 3/4. We know one of them is 2 1/3. We know another lawn is 1 3/4, and we're looking for that mystery one. So the way that we would figure it out, add these together and see how many more hours it would take to make 6 3/4. So our first step is to add those two together. We have 2 1/3, 1 3/4. Got to give them the same denominator, which is once again 12. 1/3 is equal to 4/12, and 4 times 3 is 12, and 3 times 3 is 9. So once again, we have 13/12, and 13/12 is equal to 1 and 1/12, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So 4 and 1/12, these two together equal 4 and 1/12. So now we have 6 3/4. So how many more would it take to get to 6 3/4? You're finding the difference. So we will just go ahead and subtract. We have 6 3/4. So always put the larger amount on top. We're going to take away 4 and 1/12. First name they both have in common is 12. It takes 3/4 to make 12. So that turns into 9/12. And then this already is 12. So now we can get rid of the old amounts because we already converted them into new amounts that are both 12s. 9 minus 1 is 8/12. And 6 minus 4 is 2. So the answer is 2 and 8/12. But now that you're big boys and girls, we have 8/12, which can be simplified. Remember, when they're even, just cut them in half. This would be 4/6. And once again, they're even, so you can cut them in half again. You get 2/3. So that answer is actually going to be 2 and 2/3 hours. Okie dokie. All right, let's move on. Today, we are learning how to actually multiply mixed numbers. Okay, so today, we're not just multiplying fractions, we're going to multiply mixed numbers, which has a new issue that we're going to have to face. Now, this on page 97, so we're in unit 3, lesson 6. And on page 97, the author of the math book is like, this is how we're going to teach students how to multiply mixed numbers. Well, when I look at these problems, ladies and gentlemen, looking at this makes me want to barf a little bit. I'm just being honest with you. This would confuse me, being 10 or 11 years old, and it'd scare me a little bit. So I'm going to teach it to you a different way. So what you can do here is put a big fat X right here. What they're trying to tell you is if you have 3/4 and you multiply it by 1 2/3, you got to turn everything. I'm not even going to confuse you even more. So let's move on. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to explain this to you using the example of 2 1/3 times 1 1/2. So how would I multiply mixed numbers? Well, the first thing that you have to do is you have to understand that you cannot multiply mixed numbers because they have a fraction and a whole number, and you can't multiply them like that. Instead, whenever you're going to multiply mixed numbers or any kind of fraction, they have to fit in this box right here, okay? And because you have a numerator and a denominator, and you would multiply that by another numerator and denominator, okay? That is how we multiply fractions. There's nowhere in this formula is there going to be a whole number with it, okay? So how do we do this then if we can only multiply numerators and denominators without a whole number? Well, so quick story. I came up with this whole idea that You had to fit it inside of these. You like put your problem in this exact template. And then like over the years, one time I made it and a student said, "Why do you keep drawing Mr. Krabs?" And I was like, okay, all right. I think that has a little bit of merit. It looks like his eyeballs, right? It does. So if I ever reference Mr. Krabs, that is why, folks, because it looks like his eyes. Anyways, the only way to multiply fractions is you have to put the fractions in Mr. Krabs' eyes to multiply across. No room for whole numbers. So that brings us to, oh, nice. That brings us to our next portion. The first thing that we have to do is you have to take any mixed number and turn it into an improper fraction. So just turn it into a numerator and a denominator. So let's remember this is review because we've learned how to do this. But let me show you a review again over here. This is just what I pulled off the internet. You have 4 1/3. And the first thing that you do is, if you're just remembering the process, is you take your denominator and you multiply the whole number. Okay, there we get 12. And then you add whatever your numerator is. So here we would get 13, and then you keep the name the same. So with this example, 4 1/3 is equal to 13 thirds. And then after you do that, you'd go ahead and throw it here, right? But in our example, we have 2 1/3 times 1 1/2. So you take 2 1/3. Remember what 2 wholes is. If we're turning it all into thirds, 2 wholes is 3/3 twice, because 3/3 is a whole. And 3/3 twice is 6/3. But is that all we have is 2 wholes? No. We also have 1/3. Therefore, we know that entire thing is worth 7/3. And remember, multiply across and then add. That's your new top number. Name stays the same. So that's one of our portions, and we could put 7/3 right on over there. But we also have to turn in 1 1/3. We also have to turn 1 1/2 into a fraction. So 1 1/2 is equal to 3 halves. Okay, because once again, 1 whole is worth 2 halves. Multiply across, and then you add what you had. So it's 3 halves. And then we can go ahead now and we could put those inside of Mr. Krabs' eyeballs, right? Put those in Mr. Krabs' eyeballs, because 2 1/3 is equal to 7/3. And we can multiply that by 3 halves. And then now all we have to do is, just like we did before, you multiply 2 fractions. Multiply across. 7 times 3 is 21. 3 times 2 is 6. Now we have one last step. Our final step is we have to take this improper fraction that we created, which is 21/6, and we have to pull out any wholes. Simplify, right? And then so, yes, simplify. So we have 21/6. How many 6 make a whole? 6 of them, right? So we want to pull out as many 6s as we can. So when we pull out 6s, we get 6, 12, 18, right? You get 3 wholes, which cost you 18 of your 6s. You can't pull out another one because that would take 24. So are there any left over after you grab your 3 wholes? Yeah, you only used 18. So there's still 3 of them left over, right? So we turned our improper fraction back into a mixed number. Are we finished? Almost. But now you have to look at the fraction portion. Yes, this amount right here is the correct answer. However, when we're now in big boy, big girl math, you have to end it by simplifying your fraction. So in order to simplify 3/6, you think, oh, is there a number that goes into both of them? Yeah, 3. So therefore, this is equal to 1/2, right? So the answer is 3 1/2. Now, if you could make it here, and this step is the one that makes you want to cry a little bit, don't freak out. You will understand simplifying fractions. If you are getting here, you're still getting the right answer, right? It's just not in its final correct format yet. But 3 3/6 is equal to 3 1/2. So it's still the correct answer. It's just one last polished off piece, and that's simplifying it. All right, so let's do a couple of these together right now, and then we'll finish it in Zoom. Okay? We have 5/6. We have 1 1/3. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So that answer is, turning this into an improper fraction, it would turn into 4/3. Okay, and that's what you had to do there. Did you have to do that here? No. 5/6. And then you just multiply across. Remember, first step, turn both into numerator denominators. That one was, this one was not, but now it is 4/3, because 3 times 1 plus 1 is 4/3. And now we can multiply across. We get 20/18. And are we good there? Not quite. You're not quite finished because this is improper. We could pull out a whole. Remember, the name's 18ths. You have more than 18 there. So it's 1 whole and 2 are left over. How'd you get that? Because I tried to see how many 18s are hidden in 20. There's 1 18 hidden in 20. Are there any left over? Sure, 2 18ths. And then last but not least, you can simplify 2 18ths. 2 18ths is equal to 1/9. Remember, when they're equal or when they're even, they're both even, you can just cut them in half, slice them in half. You get 1/9. So that final answer is 1 1/9. And if you're watching this video and you have this face right now, I don't get this. This is terrible. Remember what I always tell you guys, right? You have indubitably right here, this guy. I don't know why I'm drawing him with a mouse. He's not going to look indubitably. There he is. And then this guy will be easy to draw with a mouse. Ah! You have doopy-doopy-doopy-doo, right? And we all fit with everything, understanding anything and everything. We all fit somewhere between this guy and this guy. Your only goal is to move wherever you're at, to move up today. So don't freak out and get frustrated if this doesn't make any sense to you, or if simplifying doesn't make any sense to you, because your only goal is to get it more. And when you freak out, you just freeze at that position. Wherever you're at in this whole idea of understanding this concept, you freeze there. Okay? So just don't freak out. All right. You know what I'm going to do? Since this was odd, I'll go ahead and do the odd ones with you right now, and then we'll do the even ones together with Zoom. So let's go to 7. We have 1 3/4. And we are going to multiply 2 1/4. First step. Well, remember what Mr. Krabs said. You got to multiply with only numerators and denominators. So we have this mixed number right here, and we want to turn it into a fraction. 4 times 1 plus 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. Keep the name the same. 7/4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9/4. Remember, if I turn this back into a mixed number, it's going to be right here. If I turn this into a mixed number, it's going to be here. They're equal the same amount. But now we can multiply. Okay? And remember, there's also a trick where you can reduce before you multiply. We learned about that just the other day. But here we can't even use that trick because there's nowhere we could reduce before multiplying. 7 times 9 is 63. And 4 times 4 is 16. Now we have this humongous numerator. So therefore, it's worth more than one whole. We could pull out wholes. 16, 32, 48. 48 plus 16 is 48, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. So we have 64. That's too big. So we can pull out 3 wholes, which is 48. And then let's see what's left over. 15, right? 15. So it's 15 sixteenths is left over. Answer is 3 and 15 sixteenths. 3 and 15 sixteenths. All right, let's move on. That one's even. Let's go to the next odd one. We have 7/8 times 1 2/5. 7/8 times 1 2/5. First thing you have to do is fit it in Mr. Crab's eyes. 7/8 can fit, 1 2/5 cannot. So remember, 1 whole is 5/5. So therefore, this is 7/5. 1 and 2/5 is equal to 7/5. Now we can multiply across. First look, is there any way you can reduce? No. So this is 49, because 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 5 is 40. And right now, I don't care if you use a multiplication chart. If multiplying is very, very difficult for you, use a multiplication chart. Right now, that's not my concern. My concern is you understanding how to do this, not necessarily memorizing your facts right now. How many 40s are in 49? 1. What's left over? 9. 9 what? 9 40s. So 1 and 9 40ths is your answer. 10 is even. So now we are on 11. So Sarah built a pen for her pet rabbits. The pen measures 2 5/6 by 1 1/2. What's the area? Well, the way you find area is you multiply the two amounts. So remember, we got to fit it in our good buddy, Mr. Crab's eyes. So 6 times 2 is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that's 17 6. Because each whole is 6/6. Now over here, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Keep the name the same. Now, remember, math man, you have a belt, a math belt. And you could throw all these wonderful tools at these problems. Well, the tool that fits here is reducing before multiplying. Now, you're allowed to take any denominator and any numerator and just reduce them. Well, here, and let me make this a different color so it's not as confusing. Here and here, you could turn 3/6 into 1/2. And if you don't know how to reduce, and this freaks you out, this is just a shortcut. This is just one tool you can use. You don't have to have this knowledge. You can multiply across, you just have bigger numbers to work with. See, if you use this tool, it's a little easier. Now it's 17 times 1, which is 17, and we have 2 times 2, which is 4. Now, how many 4s are in 17? 4, 8, 12, 16. There's 4 of them, which is 16, and there's still 1 left over. Why? Because we had 17. When we pull out 4 wholes, we're only using 16, so there's still going to be 1/4 left over. So that answer is 4 and 1/4. One more problem here, and then we will meet for Zoom. That's 12, which is even. We'll do that together. Let's go to 13. 13, we have a bucket holds 2 3/4 gallons of water. The bucket is 5/8 full. So how much water is in that bucket? Okay, so once again, 5/8 of 2 3/4. We're going to multiply. 5/8 of 2 3/4. So, Mr. Krabs, we have 5/8. We have 2 3/4. Oh, snap. We cannot put 2 3/4 in his eyes there. But we can first turn it into a numerator denominator. Multiply across, you get 8. What does that tell us? Well, that tells us that 2 wholes is equal to 8/4. And then add whatever you had as your fraction. So 8 plus 3 is 11. So it's 11/4. So 2 3/4 is the same as 11/4. Now, kind of look. Is there a way we can reduce this first? 5 and 4 cannot get reduced. 8 and 11 cannot get reduced. 5 and 8 cannot get reduced. 11 and 4 cannot get reduced because they have no factors in common besides 1. So we're not allowed to do any of those shortcuts. You multiply across, you get 55. 8 times 4 is 32. Now, how many 32s are hidden in 55? 32, 64, 1. 1 whole. So this is worth 1 whole. Now, when you use 32 to make your whole, what's left over? Now I say, guys, don't worry about where you put it on your paper. I'm not that teacher that cares about where you can look like Einstein when you're finished. I don't care. So somewhere, do some side math and make sure you know what's left over when you pull out 32. There's 23 left over, okay? So after you use 32 of these to make your whole, there's still 23 left over. And then just look at it. Is there any factor that stares at you? No? Me neither. So don't spend too much time on it. They're not both even. They're not both divisible by 3 or 5. So therefore, let's just call it good. 1 and 23 over 32 is your answer. All right. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on Zoom. We'll rock this out together. And I hope you guys are getting a little closer to indubitably. All right. Thank you for watching.